I'll have to give him a mic.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to start from the Mishnah. It's on Kuf Yud Aleph 111. Okay? It says like this: whether a person is withholding wages of a hired worker, whether it's because he's renting an animal, whether it's because he was renting utensils. You have to pay for all of these things in its time. Like we said yesterday, that a day worker, you have the whole night. And so the same thing for all of these vessels and for these and for the animal, you have to pay it in its day. And so means a night worker, you have to pay him during the day. And also a day worker, you have to pay him by night. And the same thing would apply to the vessels and to the animals. Naftali can hear all the questions. Dr. Stein is asking about renting a shalom pot and if you have to pay him Metzia Shabbos. Okay. When do we say this? This is only if the person claims for the payment. If the person doesn't claim, then there's no prohibition. Right? If the guy didn't come to ask for it, then there's no prohibition. Now, what's happening now is the guy owes money to his worker, and he tells the worker that, look, you need the groceries. Go to the store and take groceries on my credit, and I'll pay the storekeeper. Or he tells him go to the bank and take money on my accounts. Then he's not going to be violating. In other words, even though he didn't pay him directly, but he arranged for the payment to be made, that's good enough. Okay, now here we have to wait for the Gemara. But if the person is coming to get paid at the right time when he's supposed to be paid, then he can take an oath and get paid. If he's coming late to get his payment, then you can't take an oath to get paid. We'll see in the Gemara what that means. If there were witnesses that say that he actually came in the time and now he's just coming later because he didn't give it yet, or he's then you can still take that oath to get the payments. Ger Taishav. Okay, this is going to be a big discussion in the Gemara. The Ger Taishav is a convert that doesn't actually convert to Judaism. He just converts to like a Ben Nayach. Okay, so he still eats not kosher food, but he's following a lot of the Torah laws, doesn't worship idols, and he's living in the land of Israel. Such a person, you also have to pay him on the right time. That means if he's a night worker, you have to pay him during the day. But you don't have, if he's a day worker, that you have to pay him during the night. You don't have that. You only have the day. The night worker, you have to pay him during the day, but you don't have the other pasuk. The Gemara is going to explain what's going on. Mani Masnisin, the Gemara says, who's the author of our Mishnah? Now, in order to differentiate between the Tana of our Mishnah and the Tana of a Brisa, it calls the Tana of the Brisa Tana Kama de Me'achecha. The Tana Kama, the first opinion of the Brisa that talks about the pasuk that has the word Achecha, which means your brother. It's just a phrase to identify which Tana. So it says it's not going to fit with our Mishnah. Is not going to fit with the Tana Kama of the Brisa. It's not going to fit with Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Yehuda, who's Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Yehuda's son. I'm sorry. Hashtag right. Mahi, where did you get this from? What the Tanya was taught in a Brisa. It says, okay, there's two psukim here. One pasuk is in Vayikra, Yutes, Vayikra 19:13. And there's another pasuk in Devarim 24:14. Now the pasuk in Devarim says not to withhold wages from a poor person or a very poor person from amongst your brothers. It says, oh, from amongst your brothers, that means prat la'acherim, that's coming to exclude. If the person isn't a non-Jew, you're allowed to delay payment if he is a non-Jew. Gercha, the pasuk goes on, it says, or from a convert, you're not allowed to delay payment. It's like Ger Tzedek. This is talking about a righteous convert. That's talking about someone that actually converted fully to Judaism. Bisharecha, in your gates. Now, what's it talking about in the gates? Now we're saying that it's talking about a convert that's in your gates. Who's the convert that's in your gates? Not the righteous convert. This is the convert that Eichel Nevelis said he's eating non-kosher food, which means he's called a ger taishav. He's a convert that's living in Israel, but he's not Jewish. He just accepts the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Okay, so such a person you have to pay him on time as well. Ainly star Adam. I only know that if you're hiring a person. How do you know the same thing applies if you're hiring an animal, renting an animal, or utensils? It goes on to say in your land. Okay, kol shebartzecha, which means anything that's in your land, either it's an animal or a vessel. Now, this first opinion over here says that even though we were just analyzing the pasuk in Dvarim, but the truth is that even the pasuk in Vayikra will apply to everything that we learned over here. So the same pasuk that in Vayikra is talking about a schir yaim, someone that's hired by day, and in Dvarim is talking about a schir laila, someone that's hired by night. And we just said that someone that's hired by night, he has all the laws of the same thing that applies to an animal or to a vessel or to a ger taishav. All of those laws will also apply to someone that's hired by day. From here they say whether the person hired whether he hired another person or he hired an animal or he hired a utensil, which means rental. You have to pay for it during the day, which means if it was rented at night. And also you have that you can't, if it was hired by day, you can't let it stay overnight. That's the first opinion. Now the problem so far, why this will not fit with our Mishnah, is because our Mishnah says that a ger taishav does not have all the halachas. Ger taishav only has half the halachas. Tanakama says over here, Tanakama says ger taishav is all the halachas. So it's not gonna, our Mishnah with this opinion doesn't fit perfectly. Yeah, so regarding the Noachide, the ger taishav, our Mishnah says that it only has half of the halachas of delaying payment, and the Brisa says that he has all the halachas of it. So that's why that doesn't fit with the Tanakama of the Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda says ger taishav yesh may be mishum b'yom titin schari, that a ger taishav does have the halachas of b'yom titin schari. This fits perfectly with the Mishnah. He has the halachas of if he's a night worker, you have to pay him during the day. But he doesn't have the halachas. If a day worker, they have to pay him during the night. So far that does fit with our Mishnah. However, what doesn't fit with our Mishnah is the following line: when it comes to the animals or utensils, then you only have do not oppress. You don't have all the halachas of delaying payment. You only have the one halacha of don't oppress. So that does not fit with our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says it applies to animals and utensils as well, all the halachas. And here it says it doesn't apply to the animals and the vessels. So Mani, the Gemara elaborates now. Who is the author of our Mishnah? If it's going to be the first opinion, Kasha Ger Taishav, then we have a problem from the Ger Taishav, the Noachide. It doesn't match with our Mishnah. Rabbi Yaisi, and if you're going to say it's a second opinion, which is Rabbi Yehuda, Kasha Kalim, then the utensils and the animal doesn't match with our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that all the halachas of a worker apply to hiring an animal as well, and utensils. And the Brisa says it doesn't apply. Excuse me. Amar Rava, Rabbi answers, Haitana, the author of our Mishnah is nothing to do with that Brisa. We have another Brisa to support for our Mishnah. It's a Brisa that was taught in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Shmuel, all of a sudden we see Rabbi Shmuel, whether a person hired another person or he hires an animal, or whether he hired utensils, it means rentals, you have to pay for it. If you rented it by night, you have to pay for it by day. And it also has the halachas of if you rent it by day, you have to pay for it during the night. When it comes to a convert, which means not the convert, the Noachai, what do they call them? What is it in English for like a naturalized alien or something? They have like a resident alien. Okay. Did you hear that from Naftali? Like the sign said, Netflix has a movie called Resident Alien. Sorry. An alien because you're exactly. Okay. So we have half the halachas for the Gertaisha. Only the night worker halachas, but not the day worker halachas. Exactly like our Mishnah, so it matches perfectly. Okay, so the first two opinions of a brisa did not match with our Mishnah, but now we brought in another brisa. This third opinion is Rabbi Shmuel that matches perfectly with our Mishnah. Now the Gemara is Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel would be across from Rabbi Akiva. You see, you go to the other page, you would have Rabbi Shmuel. Yeah. Now the Gemara is going to go through and elaborate on what's the source of the different opinions here. We're going to take a look at the psukim and we're going to see. We're going to do Gzeir Shava. We're going to compare. We will accept. We're going to use all the different. This is a limudim from the psukim and how they're arguing. My time at the Tanakama, the Ma'achacha. What's the reason for the Tanakama of the Brisa that says that all the halachas apply for an animal or for utensils, and even for a ger toshav it applies. It applies for everything. He says gamar sacher. We're learning the word sacher that it says in Vayikra to the word sacher that it says in Devarim, and the word sacher that it says in Devarim, we included a ger toshav. And how do we include the ger toshav? Because we use the word bisharecha to include the ger toshav. Now we're going to apply that also over to the pasuk in Vayikra, where over there it's talking about the day worker. It also says the word sacher. So it's called the Gzeir Shava, verbal analogy. It says the same word here. There's this word there. We're going to apply that also over. Okay, Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda doesn't have that Gzeir Shava, doesn't have the verbal analogy, so that's why he restricts the halachas on the ger toshav, and but not on the animals. The Gemara asks, "Need like gomer sacher sacher behema bekelim mishum biyamitin nischarein amin nechayev." 1 second. I'm sorry. Rabbi Yehuda says the halachas don't apply to animals and utensils. So, but it does apply to and the ger toshav as well doesn't have. The ger toshav only has half the halachas, similar to our Mishnah. But the behema v'kelim don't have any of the halachas except for leisashik. So why doesn't the animal have all the halachas? So he said, okay, because we don't do the Gzeir Shava, so we don't have all the halachas in there. So just 1 second. By the way, where did we get the animal and utensils from? We got it from the word artzecha. It says or the resident alien that's in your gates. That's in your gate. Oh, your gates. What's in your gates? Also animals and utensils in your gates. So it says 1 second. If that's the way you're going to read this, then if you read a drop further, it says on the day you should pay him. The following verse. So why don't we have that verse applied to the animals and the utensils that you have to pay for it on the following day? So Tani Rab Chanina says, if you read the end of the pasuk, it says, don't let the sun set. Because he's a poor man, you have to pay him before the sun sets. Now it says, Ki anihu, he's a poor man, Mishu balidei aniyas vashiris. This is only talking about someone that if you don't pay him, he's going to get poor. There's no such thing as a poor animal or a poor utensil. So not paying him, you don't have that halacha, so therefore it doesn't apply to that person. The Tanakama. What about the Tanakama that says that it does apply to behema v'kelim? What do they do with the ki anihu? It says ki anihu mayavid. What do they do with the word ki anihu? Because he's a poor man, and that taught us that it's coming to exclude animals and vessels, which the Tanakama included, not excluded. It says, that's coming to say that if the person only has enough money to pay one of two workers, one of them is poor and one of them is rich, which one should he pay first? He should pay the poor one first. Okay, very nice. The Tanakama uses that pasuk to tell us that the preference is given to the poor man that needs the money more. What about Rabbi Yehuda? What does he do, or how does he know that you pay the poor man first? He used ki anihu to tell me that it doesn't apply to animals and utensils. It says that halakha, excuse me, that halakha he learns from the pasuk of leisashik, the beginning of the first of the two psukim in Devarim. It says that you should not oppress the worker, the poor man, or the very poor man, the evyan, impoverished. Okay, so we have excuse me. So we have another source. So the Tanakama, why does the Tanakama not use that source? Your Rabbi Yehuda found another source. Why doesn't the Tanakama use that source? It says chad lahak money l'asher v'chad lahak money le'evyan. One source is coming to tell me that you have to pay a poor man before a wealthy man. The other source is coming to tell me they have to pay the poor man before the impoverished man, which is interesting. Which is interesting because it's not working.
What's the difference between an ani and an evyon?
The ani has more than the evyan. The evyan has absolutely nothing. And the ani is just poor.
Okay.
Zero. Evyan is the word ta'iv l'chol davar. He desires everything. It means he has nothing. So when it comes to paying, when it comes to paying a worker, you have to pay the ani before the usher and the ani before the evyan, for the impoverished. Yeah, the ani before the evyan. Very surprising. Yeah, counterintuitive. We'll see in a second. So, Utricha, I'm sorry. It's not working. It's not. No. So, Tzricha, it's necessary. Yes, I mean, an Evyain, if it would only tell me that the ani comes before the Evyain, the poor man comes before the impoverished man, it's something like Kasef Lemitzvah. That's because the Evyain is not embarrassed to ask. He has so little, is so nothing, he doesn't even have self-respect. So he would ask for everything. So if he needs to get paid, he's going to go ask to get paid. Yeah. The ani, on the other hand, is embarrassed. So therefore, you have to pay him first. Avalasher, but the wealthy man, Kasef Lemitzvah, he's also embarrassed. So I wouldn't know that the ani gets paid before the usher, that he gets paid before the wealthy man. I would say not. Yes, mean an usher, if it would tell me that the poor man gets paid before the wealthy man, that's because the wealthy man doesn't need it. But the poor man that does need it, the impoverished man that needs it, I would say that he comes first. So tzricha, it's necessary to tell me both of those halachas. I never would have figured that out. I would have said one. Study done, and the author of our Mishnah, Manafshach. 1 second. If he learns at the Gzeir Shava that both psukim, the halachas of one apply to the other one, so why doesn't he say that the halachas of the Ger Toshav apply are 100% as someone else, as a regular Jew? If he doesn't learn Sachar Sachar, then how does he know that the animals and the vessels have the same halachas? The Gemara says, really, he does not have the Gzeir Shava. So how does he know that the animals and the vessels have the same halacha? They have to pay on the day, etc. Says, B'shani Hasam, but the pasuk says it's different. Not to delay the payment of the worker with you until morning. Anything that works together with you, you shouldn't delay until the morning. Now, what works together with you? The animal and the vessels. So we learn from the pasuk of Itach, which is in Vayikra, that it's referring to the animals and vessels as well. So what about the Ger Toshav? He works with you. Markra Reyacha. Pasuk says, no, your friend. Says, don't oppress your friend, your neighbor, your friend. So that's referring to Reyacha v'le Ger Toshav. That's only your friend, not the stranger, not the resident alien. Yachi, afilu be'im mekelim nami. So 1 second, but that's not your friend, the vessel, the animal and the vessels. Says, well, haksiv itach. I don't need that because it says itach. It means with you. The Gemara says, Marisa. So what made you choose this and exclude that? What made you exclude this and include that? It says, mistabra. It's more logical. Behema bekelim, to include them. Habalei l'rab. They should be included. Even though the animal and the vessels are not your friend, but they're excuse me, they're your friend's money. So they belong to him, so that's why it's still considered reyacha. But Ger Toshav ain't b'chlal mammon reyacha. But the Ger Toshav is not considered your friend's money. Okay. So that's why the Ger Toshav gets excluded and animals get included. The Tanakama de me'achacha reyacha me'abdilei. What about the Tanakama that learned of the Brisa that learned Sachar? We don't need Sachar. We have another source. It says Itach. So it says, that pasuk nibayla l'kedetanya, they learn it from Reyacha v'loya Maleki. I'm sorry. The question wasn't about the Itach. The question was about the Reyacha. What do they do with the word Reyacha? Reyacha excludes the 1 second. Reyacha, first, before that, Reyacha excludes the Ger Toshav, and the Tanakama include the Ger Toshav. The Gemara says, they use it for something else. Reyacha v'le Amaleki, that it's coming to exclude a Amaleki, that you don't have to pay him on time. Amaleki me'achecha nafka. 1 second, I know that from another source. I don't need Reyacha. The pasuk says your brother. That's a pasuk in Devarim. So I have another source for that. The Gemara says no. One is to say that you don't have to pay him on time. Another one is to say that you're allowed to steal from him. And I never would have known this. The Yashmin and Gzeilef would have said that you're allowed to steal. Mishum blei tarach bei. Because maybe he didn't work for it. Yeah, I don't know. Is there a comment there? No, like right. I'm supposed to kill him anyway. Right. But when he works for you, maybe you should have to pay him, and it's forbidden to withhold wages. And if it only says that you have to pay him, that you don't have to pay him, rather, that's because he never got the money yet. But when he owns it already, then maybe you're not allowed to take it away from him. It's only if he doesn't own it yet. tzricha. So that's why I need two psukim. One would be reyacha b'lei amaleki, and one is achecha that tells me that it's not a non-Jew. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, what does he do with the pasuk of itach that says with you, which we said was referring to, was coming to include also the animals, which Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of, the animals in vessels. He says, he needs that like the Rabasi, like what Rabasi says. I feel like that even if it was only hired for a very small amount of work, you still have to pay him on time, even if it's a very small wages. What about the Tana of our Mishnah? What do they do? How do they know this? They learn this from they love Nisius Nafsa Nafta. So because he risks his life for the work, that's why the reason why you have to pay him on time is because he just risked his life. Even if it's a small amount, but the fact is he still risked his life, even to pick one fruit. He has to climb a tree, he could fall off. So therefore you have to pay him. What about the Rabbi Yehuda? That's Ahumi Baile like the Tanya. He needs it this pasuk for what it says in a brisa. They love that if he risks his life, why did this person climb a ramp or hang himself from a tree? He passes himself over to death. Means he risks his life. Is it not for his wages? So therefore, you have to pay him on time. Another pshat. They love it says, coming to teach me, anyone that withholds payment from a worker, as if he's killing him. There's two interpretations here. What does it mean, killing him? Who's the him? One opinion, Rav Huna Rav Chisda says, Nafshi Shel Gazlan. He's killing himself by withholding the wages. The reason is because when you withhold the wages, then you're forfeiting your own life, because the punishment for that is very strict. The one says no, it's killing him. He's killing the person that he's not paying. The one that says it's referring to the person that's withholding the wages, or stealing. It's because it says don't steal from the poor because he's poor, and don't oppress the poor man in the gate. And it also says because Hashem will wage their battle. He'll punish the ones that steal with their life. Okay, so we see that the person that steals or the person that withholds wages forfeits his life. The one that says it's the soul of the nigzal, of the one that's being stolen from, or the one that's the wages are being withheld, the worker. The way of people that steal is they take the soul of its owner. If someone gets robbed, it's like as if the person took his life, took the victim's life. The idach, according to the other opinion that says it's talking about that he's anyone withholds wages, is as if he forfeits his own life. Nami aksives nefesh balav yikach. It says that you're taking the soul of the person of the victim. It says balav dahashta, talking about the one that owns it now. Vidach nami aksiv kaves kveim nefesh. But it also says that Hashem punishes the one that steals. So the Gemara explains matam kamar. What it means to say is it's giving a reason. Matam kaves kveim. Why does Hashem punish him so strictly? Mishum dinatul nefesh, because he took the soul of the person of the victim, and that's why. Okay, let me leave it over here. And I'm sorry, but I'm rushing out.